gentlemen, welcome to Azeroth Daily for the 19th of May 2011. My name is TotalBiscuit, bringing you your daily dose of WoW news and comment. In the headlines today, MMO Champion has datamined some more PTR build changes, including changes to the Tier 12 set bonuses, including Mages, i.e. the only class I care about, that has a change to the Tier 12 4-piece set bonus that no longer affects arcane missiles. You can't cast that while moving now. It now makes arcane power decrease the cost of spells instead of increasing the cost, which is an interesting change. It probably makes sense, really, considering the nature of the arcane mage, i.e. to piss away mana. Also, the 2-piece set bonus now also affects Frost Firebolt. There's a bunch of other changes. I would highly recommend you go and have a look at them, and there's also been changes to various items, although bearing in mind that these are all epics that you will be getting at some point during the next patch, and not right now. I don't see how that'll be all interesting, but if you want a good list of some of the gear that you're going to be getting, then go and have a look at that. The link is in the description below this video, and there are various class balance changes to have a look at as well, and if you happen to be into inscription and jewel crafting, there are a few things you might like to know. As the Arena Pass gets underway, there is also a community challenge that's been taken up by a number of fan sites, including sites we mentioned quite a lot in the community update, like, say, Battlecraft. And the idea behind this is that these sites will be competing to provide various articles and coverage, earn ranking points, votes, and unlock various achievements. This is actually a very cool idea. I was asked to participate. Unfortunately, I just did not have the time. I would love to, but learning to play Arena, good God, that would take me a long time, and I'm so busy anyway, so it kind of sucks. But bear in mind there are people like Paragon, Nordrassil Radio involved in that as well as WoW Center, WoW Serbia, all sorts of sites that you hear quite a lot about on this show. So I would recommend that you go and check this out, and you can participate by regularly checking up on the ranking page as well as the Facebook and Twitter for Blizzard Europe. So go and check that out. It looks like a very interesting venture, actually. That's probably the first time I've ever heard them doing something like that, and it's pretty awesome. Now, those of you looking to get some World of Warcraft merchandise could certainly do worse than having a look at Taverncraft that provide these officially branded mugs, and you can get these mugs currently with a $10 discount. So that's $10 off for a limited time only through to Sunday, I believe. These things are pretty hardcore. They're actually made of fine-grained stoneware. I do have one of these. I've got one of the Epic Editions, and while expensive, it is extremely good quality. Definitely worth a look, and you can check them all out over in the description below this video. And with that, it's time for your Daily Blues. Kelvin complains that the Hellfire Peninsula makes his eyes bleed. Not literally bleed, but can you please, he asks, do something about the contrast there? The red everywhere is so bright that my eyes hurt. That's an interesting thing to say, honestly. I have a very, very good monitor. Yes, I'm kind of bragging. I won it from Blizzard. They gave it to me for Shoutcasting 2009 contest. But it's a 3008 WFP with a massive contrast ratio. The only game I've ever had a problem with, I think, was Bad Company 2 on some of the snow levels. That actually hurt my eyes. I've never had a problem with Hellfire Peninsula, but there you go. Anecdotal evidence doesn't mean anything. Bashiok's gone off the deep end again by the looks of it, and says, I know, and think about all the orcs that live there. I probably would have been down for drinking some demon blood too. Yes, don't encourage people, Bashiok. Quit it. We've got a PTR raid schedule right here, brought to us by Takralis. Thursday's raid in the US is going to be the Majordomus Staghelm encounter. I'm fairly sure they'd actually done that one before, so obviously it needs a fairly large amount of testing. And on Friday the 20th of May, we're going to have Shanox 10-player on the EU side at 1930 Central European Summertime, and for the US at 1630 Pacific, we've got I don't even know. Beth Talak, the Big Spider. There you go. Big Spider Boss, 25-player. And also, they will be activating some of the creatures in the middle of the volcanic plains that have, up until this point, been empty. And apparently, to spawn Shanox, you need to kill some of these. So there you go, folks. Sadly, to the best of my knowledge, it doesn't look like they've fixed any of the disconnection problems, and that is, as always, causing a bunch of issues while trying to film anything. Hence the reason you haven't really been getting any real PTR footage from, well, anybody, honestly. I haven't bothered. I know Zam's not been doing anything. OMFG Cat has barely done anything. It's a waste of time. I'm sorry, it really is. It is too much of a headache. And it's all quiet on the Western Front by the looks of it, because that's pretty much anything worthwhile from the Blues. So yeah, that should tell you how good the rest of the stuff was. And with that, it's time for your daily grind. Are you ready to go on a magic carpet ride? Well, tough, you aren't getting one. What you do get is this magic minecart ride. The quest is called Mr. Goldmine's Wild Ride, and it is just that as you go through this mine in the middle of the Twilight Highlands in what looks to be a highly, highly unsafe minecart. Thanks to Mr. Goldmine, you end up getting stuck inside the mine. Thanks, Goblin. Oh, God. I knew there was a reason I didn't trust these guys. And with that, it's time for your weekly feature. This is the Court of Law. Well, we've managed to wrap up all of the main capital cities, but there is one city that's hardly frequented that we have left to cover, and that is, of course, the one and only Silvermoon. And in order to understand Silvermoon's history, you're going to have to understand the history of the High Elves. The High Elves, led by Datamining, left Kalimdor behind them and wandered the world for many long years. Datamining, who already had the name Sunstrider, sought out places of considerable power on which to build a new homeland for his people. His fleet finally landed on the beaches of the kingdom men would later call Lordaeron. As the High Elves crossed the rugged mountainous lands of Lordaeron, their journey became more perilous. Since they were effectively cut off from the life-giving energies of the Well of Eternity, many of them fell ill from the frigid climate or died from starvation. The most disconcerting change, however, was the fact that they were no longer immortal or immune to the elements. They also shrank somewhat in height, and their skin lost its characteristic violet hue. Despite their hardships, they encountered many wondrous creatures that had never been seen before in Kalimdor. They also found tribes of primitive humans who hunted throughout the ancient forest lands. However, the direct threat they encountered were the ferocious and cunning forest trolls of Zolaman. The Armani Empire stretched across most of northern Lordaeron, and the trolls fought hard to keep unwanted strangers from their borders. The elves developed a deep loathing for the vicious trolls and killed them on sight whenever they were encountered. After many long years, the High Elves finally found a land which was reminiscent of Kalimdor. Deep within the northern forests of the continent, they founded the kingdom of Quel'Thalas and vowed to create a mighty empire which would dwarf that of their Kaldorei cousins. As time wore on, Quel'Thalas became a shining monument to the High Elves' efforts and magical prowess. Its beauteous palaces was crafted in the same architectural style as the ancient halls of Kalimdor. Quel'Thalas became the shining jewel that the elves had longed to create. The Convocation of Silvermoon was founded as the ruling power over Quel'Thalas, though the Sunstrider dynasty maintained a modicum of political power. Comprised of 7 of the greatest High Elf lords, the Convocation worked to secure the safety of the elven lands and people. Surrounded by their protective barrier, the High Elves remained unmoved by the old warnings of the Kaldorei, and continued to use magic flagrantly in almost all aspects of their lives. For nearly 4,000 years, the High Elves lived peacefully within the secluded safety of their kingdom. Nevertheless, the vindictive trolls were not so easily defeated. They plotted and schemed in the depths of the forests and waited for the numbers of their warbands to grow. Finally, a mighty troll army charged out of the shadowy forests and once again laid siege to the shining spires of Quel'Thalas. The human tribes had recently been united under the rule of Thoradin, establishing their capital city of Strom in the highlands of northern Lordaeron. While they too suffered at the hands of the trolls, it was not until ambassadors from Quel'Thalas arrived that Thoradin realized how desperate the elves' situation was. The elves agreed to train 100 men in the arts of magic in exchange for Thoradin pledging military aid. Thoradin, though distrustful of magic, agreed to send aid to the elves out of necessity, realizing that once Quel'Thalas had fallen, Arathor would be next. After the battle that forever broke the legions of Zolaman, the elves pledged an oath of loyalty and friendship to Thoradin and his bloodline. Nearly 3,000 years later, during the Second War, Anduin Lothar, the last blood descendant of King Thoradin, led his people across the Great Sea to Lordaeron, where he went before King Terenas and warned of the incoming invasion of the Orcish horde. Terenas immediately called a council of the neighboring kings, which led to the formation of the Alliance of Lordaeron. With Lothar named Supreme Commander, Terenas sent a missive to King Anasterion Sunstrider, himself a veteran of the Troll Wars millennia before, informing him of Lothar's lineage and the request for aid to the Alliance. After the end of the Second War, Anasterion withdrew his support from the Alliance, and the majority of the elven race shut themselves inside their enchanted kingdom. 15 years later, the Plague of Undeath broke out in Lordaeron. Terenas' son Arthas made efforts to stop the plague from turning his beloved people into mindless undead raised to serve the Lich King. Arthas fell into despair and eventually madness. Traveling to Northrend, he forfeited his soul to the Lich King upon taking up the runeblade Frostmourne. Now the greatest of the Lich King's Death Knights, Arthas was tasked by Tichondrius, the leader of the Dreadlords, to resurrect the necromancer Kel'Thuzad. Tichondrius also told Arthas that there was only one suitable place to resurrect Kel'Thuzad, the mystic Sunwell, the source of the High Elves' magic deep inside Quel'Thalas. To reach the Sunwell, Arthas led the Scourge in a march of death up a path that today is known as the Dead Scar, across the Elrondar River into Eversong Woods, destroying one of the protective runestones on the edge of the forests. The elves, in an attempt to stop the blight from spreading further into Eversong Woods, set the area to the torch, but the armies of the Scourge pressed on, breaking through the Elf Gates and through Silvermoon itself. Ranger General Sylvanas Windrunner led the defense as best she could, but she fell to the power of Frostmourne. In a cruel gesture of dominance, Arthas took Sylvanas' lifeless body and ripped her spirit from it, creating the first Banshee. Even the blade Quell Dalar, King Anasterion, and the Convocation of Silvermoon were no match for Arthas' legions, slaughtered alongside their people by the relentless tide of the mindless undead. With Silvermoon in ruins and the elves broke and scattered, Arthas fulfilled his task and submerged the corpse of Kel'Thuzad within the waters of the Sunwell, fouling the potent waters of eternity. The necromancer returned to the world of the living as a sorcerer's lich. Not long afterwards, the Sunwell itself exploded, cutting off the elves from their source of magic. When the word of Quel'Thalas's fall reached Dalaran, Prince Kael'thas returned to his homeland and gathered all the survivors he could. The elves rejoined the Alliance armies, where they called themselves Blood Elves in honor of their fallen. But the Alliance began to look down on their elven comrades. Grand Marshal Garithos, the leader of the Alliance remnant, often gave the Blood Elves tasks that were either beneath their capabilities as warriors, or worse, suicidal. Kael'thas was forced to call upon the aid of the Night Elves, and later Lady Vash and the Naga. When Garithos discovered the Naga had aided Kael and his brethren, he sentenced them to death for treason. Kael and his comrades were rescued by Vash and her Naga, who took them to Illidan in the wastes of Outland. With the promise of as much magic as they required, Kael'thas pledged the loyalty of the Blood Elves to Illidan's cause. Settling into the Outland with the rest of Illidan's forces, Kael'thas sent a magister named Ramath back to Quel'Thalas with the promise that Kael'thas would one day return to lead the Blood Elves to paradise. Ramath joined up with Lor'themar Theron, Regent Lord of Quel'Thalas, and informed him of Kael'thas' command to prepare the Blood Elves for their journey into the Promised Land beyond the Dark Portal. To aid in that task, Ramath and the new Order of Blood Magi he founded used very powerful magics to rebuild the eastern districts of the shattered city of Silvermoon to serve as the Blood Elven capital in Azeroth. In the intervening years, the Blood Elves have turned to the Horde for support. The Forsaken in particular are staunch supporters of the Blood Elves' membership in the Horde, as their queen, Sylvanas Windrunner, was Ranger General during the Scourge invasion, and a good number of Forsaken are High Elves who were killed in the war. Quel'Thalas would later be shaken by the sudden betrayal of Kael'thas, who had switched his loyalties to that of the Burning Legion. In a mad bid to summon his new master Kil'jaeden from the Isle of Quel'Danas, Kael'thas attacked his homeland to steal Meru, and the Shattered Sun Offensive was formed to end the prince's dark ambitions. Quel'Thalas is currently ruled by Lor'themar Theron, who has continued to style himself as its Regent Lord following the death of Kael'thas. With the Isle of Quel'Danas back under Blood Elf control, a number of High Elves have been allowed to make pilgrimages to their homeland in order to visit the renewed Sunwell. The Sunfury forces have also returned home. Quel'Thalas is likely the first target for the new Troll Empire brewing in Zulamarn. Ranger General Haldoran Brightwing has joined forces with Darkspear Chieftain Vol'jin and Varisa Windrunner to counter this threat. And with that, it's time for the mailbox. This one comes in from Kara that says, for a long time now, my friends and I have wanted something along the lines of what Blizzard's new premium service will be. Invite friends from other servers to do instances. Most of my friends are obviously on other servers now, and this is a little heartbreaking. I'm disappointed with Blizzard's stance on this, and even more disappointed that they don't seem to want to listen. I can understand them wanting to make money to keep a steady flow of income for development and maintenance, but I don't think this is the right way of going about it. Personally, I think Blizzard should just raise the sub price by a couple of dollars or €1 to compensate them for working hard to improve our gaming experience. It's been $15 for a long time now, and I for one wouldn't mind paying another $1 or whatnot to help them out. Playing with friends should never be a premium service in an MMO. What's your stance on this? Is this as upsetting to you as it is to me? Yes, it is as upsetting to you as it is to me. Well, I do understand the whole it's been $15 for a very long time, and that actually does bring up a fairly reasonable point in the fact that it hasn't risen with inflation at all. So prices have gone up on Blizzard's end in order to maintain and had to purchase everything from the lowly jar of coffee for the GMs all the way up to that bag of hallucinogens that Chris Metzen is obviously taking. But whatever the case, I personally would have no issues at all with having them knock the price of the subscription up by, say, £1 or $1.50. Would anyone notice that? Probably not. And the rationale for that? Oh, well, it's inflation over the past 6 years. It's as simple as that. Costs have risen, we have to keep things going. But what I don't like is the idea that there are add-on services. That isn't good. I don't believe in anything being developed for World of Warcraft outside of expansions being put into the game as a premium service outside of our subscription, because what's paying for that is our subscription. Now, a service like this is the same as a service like character transfers. It's a license to print money. Once it's set up, that's pretty much it. Now, the justification I want to give for this is that I used a character transfer system, the race change, on no less than 16 separate occasions over the course of 45 minutes on the PTR. And it took no time at all. There is no interaction from Blizzard at all in that system, aside from maybe fixing it when it breaks. That is it. It is completely, totally, 110% automated, and it happens instantaneously, which indicates to me it barely even takes any power to do it either. So, to me, it seems like these kind of services being sold for that amount, and bear in mind, we're talking about a lot of money here, you know, $20 to $25 or something, isn't it, for a character transfer? That's a lot of money. You can buy a good game for that. Now, I don't think that that is worthwhile at all. So, I think that, yes, it should be part of the subscription fee. And if they have to raise all the subscription fees up just because of inflation, okay, who the hell's going to notice an extra $1? Probably nobody, honestly. I don't think anyone's really going to unsub over that. There'll be a lot of arguments and whining on the forums, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to unsub over an extra $1. Come off it. But what they will do is unsub when they see that Blizzard is directing development funds towards things that they don't get access to as part of their overall subscription. That's the difference. That's why things like premium mounts and premium pets without the outside of game benefits, like, say, a plushie, I'm okay with that because at least it's a physical item with a bonus attached to it. Those things are bad. A similar question came in from Curtis that says, I watched your daily yesterday and heard about the Cross-Realm Dungeon Finder feature, was excited to hear about it, then I read the blue post myself, and was quickly sad that part of the Cross-Realm Real ID system would be premium. I can understand charging for mounts or non-combat pets, even though I think they're overpriced. I can't understand that, but okay, at least somebody does. But anyway, to charge us to use a feature that helps us play with our friends is horrible. To me, this is one step in the direction of pay to win. However, do you think this is going to affect queue times for people who decide to not pay for it? It is probably not going to affect queue times for those who decide to not pay for it. You still go in the queue for cross-realm dungeons anyway, even if you haven't paid for the system. This is designed so that if you've got, like, a few friends over in other realms, and you're going to organize a dungeon, then bam, that's it. You can get in with them, you can invite them through the Real ID system. So it will reduce your queue time because you are going into an organized group. That works in your own server anyway. You want a way to reduce queue time? Well, you could get a group to start with and then queue. That reduces the queue time. It's the same with the guild and things like that. It's not going to affect queue times for people that don't decide to pay for it. You're going to be in exactly the same situation as you were before. I still disagree with the idea that Blizzard is charging people money to play with their friends, because to me, playing with your friends is the thing that keeps you playing. This is why, in the long run, this is a terrible business strategy. The more systems you put into the game that allow you to play with friends, the longer people will stay playing, because that social interaction is key to keeping you in the game. I know I've played through areas of the game that I've absolutely hated just because I've been playing with my friends. It makes it more enjoyable. If I'm isolated from people that I like to play with, then I can guarantee that my subscription time will not stay on as long as it would have were I playing with friends. So, to me, it seems like Blizzard should invest in systems to make sure that you are able to play with the people that you want to, and in the long run, they will reap the dividends. This is a cash grab, and it's an unwise one at that. Okay, folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching Azeroth Daily. Please remember to thumb it up and favorite it if you happen to like it. Completely optional, but it does help the channel, so thank you very much for those who choose to do so. I will be back hopefully a little bit earlier tomorrow. I know it's so late today. I'm really, really sorry. I really screwed up with the schedule and all sorts of things. I had problems today, so yeah, it sucks. I'm trying, folks. I'm trying. I need to get things back. I'm so sorry. I know I keep apologizing, but you guys deserve to have a regular service, and I keep running into problems. But whatever the case, you have your episode, and I will see you next time.